Hey, welcome back to the Weekly Word, and welcome to the Cherokee National Forest. Let's do a little talk about stewardship here today. It's a national forest. A lot of people think that's synonymous with national park, but it isn't. National park is like the Smokies. They don't harvest timber, it's for recreation, and it's just set aside to be a park. But the only reason we have these mountains is because they were set aside for the nation's timber reserves, national forest. That's why the national park is under the Department of the Interior, but the national forest is under the United States Department of Agriculture. It's because trees are a crop. It's seen as agriculture. So it's always kind of humorous to me when I run into these folks that think that you shouldn't ever cut a tree in the national forest. That's the only reason they're here, for timber harvesting. Now, we recreate in them too, but as the father of the Forest Service, Gifford Pinchot, said, we can have our cake and eat it too. We can recreate and we can get the crop out of there too. It's a renewable resource. Just behind me down here in about another mile or so, about where I'm at Stratton Meadows, by the way, I didn't tell you that. But down behind me here, about where the road turns off to Whig Meadows, just between here and there was the first clear cut that I ever saw in my life, and that was in the late 70s. And I was flabbergasted. It looked like an atomic bomb had gone off. And that's the way a lot of people are today if they see a small clear cut somewhere. And it's really not as bad as it looks. It looks horrible to start with, but it grows back into a thicket. The wildlife love it. We don't do as much clear cutting as we used to. And our grouse and some other species, deer, have just about gone from the forest anymore because they like that brokenness. They don't like just unbroken trees. They're creatures of the edge. And we're not doing as much timber harvesting as we used to. But it's here for that purpose. So if you go down here where I was telling you about, I saw that first one almost 50 years ago. You wouldn't even find it today because in 50 years, trees grow a whole lot. In fact, it's probably about ready that it could be clear cut again. So don't get so upset when you see somebody harvesting timber in the national forest. That's why we have the national forest. It's all about stewardship. And that's what it's about. We don't want to do it like they did in the 20s when the timber companies thought we're going to come in there and just cut every tree because all they saw was cash. But it's about balance. You know, we can get some here and some here and some here, and everything's right. That's good stewardship. And that's really the first command that God ever gave human beings, that we're to be stewards of His good creation. So it's always trying to figure out how to be best about that. But the number one thing that you are responsible and will be accountable to God for stewardship is you have the stewardship of your decision. God made you a human being with free will. You can choose to come to Christ and spend eternity with Him, or you can choose to reject Him and spend eternity separated from God. But God leaves that decision entirely to you. I do too. I hope you'll make the right one, and I can urge you, but only you can make that decision. All right, thanks for joining us. We'll find another adventure to talk about next week.